Welcome to today's explainer. Today we're actually going on a journey into a totally borderless, ancient spiritual tradition that really defies everything we think we know about strict religious boundaries. We're looking at a community that acted like a massive cultural sponge over centuries, just absorbing different faiths, practices, and legends to survive against all odds. All right, let's dive into the hidden syncretism of the Nath Path.
Section 1. A Tapestry of Faiths.
So to really understand the deep history of the Nath Path, we've kind of got to start by looking at how faith manifests today in vibrant, unexpected ways. It sets the perfect stage for our story. This quote comes directly from a documentary capturing the Hinglaj Yatra. It's a massive, incredibly joyous Hindu festival taking place right now in Balochistan, Pakistan. The atmosphere is totally celebratory, with attendees expressing deep gratitude and freedom. It's a striking image of modern-day religious devotion just thriving across national lines.
But this brings up a seriously fascinating historical mystery. How exactly does a vibrant Hindu festival happening in modern-day Pakistan connect to these ancient, crumbling hidden temples thousands of miles away in West Bengal, India? Well, to answer that, we're going to have to peel back the layers of time.
Section 2. Who are the Nath Yogis?
We really need to uncover the core identity of the people behind these interconnected shrines. Our explainer today is heavily anchored in some absolutely fascinating academic research published in the Journal of Emerging Technologies and Innovative Research. This scholarly deep dive traces the Nath tradition right through West Bengal's architectural history. And honestly, what they found is pretty wild. The Nath community isn't just one static thing. It's a lineage that morphed and evolved dramatically over time.
Just look at the timeline. Way back in the pre-Vedic era, you had these early Brahmanes and Dravidians practicing very ancient forms of yoga. Fast forward to the Puranic age, and this actually evolves and perfects into Sanatan Dharma, which was heavily aligned with Shaivism, the worship of Lord Shiva. But here's where it gets really interesting. During the Buddhist era, when Tantric Buddhism was the dominant force, the Nath Panth didn't fight against it. No, they integrated it. They absorbed tantric practices and Kaya yoga right into their own system. They were literally the ultimate cultural sponge.
So, what exactly did they believe? Well, the theology is surprisingly digestible. It's totally grounded in something called the Tripada, or threefold theory. Basically, this encompasses three entities: Alak Niranjan, Anadinath, and Adinath. But here's the massive takeaway. The status of all three of these Naths is ultimately viewed as one Shiva. This underlying philosophy is the glue that united all their followers.
Socially, though, things were a bit more divided. Over time, two very distinct classifications emerged. On one hand, you had the Nadaja yogis. These were disciples who were actually initiated into the tradition through a guru. On the other hand, you had the Bindoja yogis. And these were hereditary yogis, people literally born into the tradition through their family lines. So it was a pretty complex, layered society.
Section 3. The Ancient Footprints.
Now let's talk about the physical legacy they left behind. These guys weren't just wandering ascetics. They left an immense historical footprint all across Bengal. I want you to just let this number sink in for a second. 75%. According to the academic source, prominent scholar Dr. Hara Prasad Shastri noted that up until the 12th century, a whopping 75% of Bengal's population followed non-Brahmanical religions. That massive majority was primarily made up of followers of the Nath religion and Buddhism. I mean, they weren't some fringe group. They were absolutely the mainstream.
And within Bengal, this vast population organized themselves into three main sects, which really highlights their incredible internal diversity. First, you had the Aya Panth, which was remarkably founded by a female figure, Devi Bimalala Mata. Then there was the Kapilani Panth, led by Kapila Muni. And finally, the Nateshri Panth, a sect that was deeply associated with the fierce Aghori monks.
And man, their architectural prowess was absolutely astonishing. Take the Jattar Dual Temple, for example, discovered deep in the jungles of the Sundarbans. This thing is a soaring, 60-foot-tall, square Shikhar dual. It was built all the way back in 975 AD during the Palasan era. It honestly just stands there as a monumental testament to their historical power and influence.
Then you've got the Maa Hinglaj Temple. This place was considered the main center of their spiritual practice in the region, featuring 12 sacred reservoirs, or koans. But what's truly mind-blowing about this ancient monastery is the historical support it received. It was so widely respected that it actually received land donations to cover its expenses from none other than the Mughal Emperor Jahangir.
That right there proves just how deeply accepted the Nath Panth were across completely different ruling empires. Section 4. Cults, Corpses, and Kapolics. But look, it wasn't all just peaceful integration and royal land grants. We've got to dive into the more mysterious, surprising, and frankly intense esoteric practices of the Nath yogis. To kind of ground this grand history, our sources provide some really fascinating human anecdotes. Like, take the Aghori moth in Balurghat. Legend has it that a yogi named Ramnath Aghori, a master who supposedly possessed 1,008 vidyas, or magical skills, simply sat under a mango tree because he wanted to build a temple. A local female landowner was so moved by his presence that she instantly called a sub-registrar and donated 7 bighas of land to him right on the spot. That is a massive plot of land.
Their legendary status in the community was totally built on this profound supernatural reverence. Down at the Siddhakunda Reservoir, local myth tells this breathtaking story of a young boy who died of a high fever and was actually taken to a funeral pyre. The story goes that the great yogi Gorakshanath arrived, sprinkled some sacred ash and holy water from the reservoir, and completely revived the boy. You can see how stories like that would cement their absolute authority in the region, right?
Yet all this peaceful reverence contrasts super sharply with their incredibly fierce esoteric rituals. The Siddhinath temple complex includes something called the Panchamundi temple. And according to the research, this temple housed 5 literal corpse heads. Aghori monks use these heads to perform intense, fierce Tantra sadhana rituals. Get this, a new head monk couldn't even take over the monastery until he had successfully completed his meditation right in front of these corpses. It's a very stark reminder of their Kapolic roots.
Section 5. The Ultimate Cultural Crossover.
Okay, let's shift the narrative to what I personally consider their most astonishing feature. Beyond the giant temples and the intense rituals, their true superpower was the ability to seamlessly absorb and blend with other religions. They were the ultimate cultural crossover. When ancient religions like Buddhism and the Dharma cult started to decline in Bengal, the Nath Panth didn't push them away. They just absorbed their followers. If you go to the town of Baharu today, because of this historic fusion of Dharma Thakur worship and Shaiva culture, you can literally find the fierce idol of Dharmaraj and the traditional Shiva lingam standing peacefully side by side in the exact same temple complex.
So the really crucial point here is how this overlapping identity allowed strict religious boundaries to just completely vanish. Remember that Hinglaj temple we talked about earlier? Well, Hindus worship the deity there as Hinglaj Mata, while Muslims revere her as Nanani Mata. In the exact same way, the revered Nath guru Matsyendranath is simultaneously celebrated in Sufi literature as Mashalandi Pir. Think about that for a second. It is the exact same figure, being revered by entirely different faiths.
And this isn't just some dusty thing of the past. Right now, at the Bacharya Siddhashram Nath Monastery, the sources detail a profoundly non-sectarian environment. People from the Muslim community come in to recite the Kalama and pray for relief, while Hindus worship their deities in the exact same space in total harmony. The mantras used at this site literally invoke Allah, Khoda, Hindu gods, and Sufi peers, all in the exact same breath. It's incredible.
Section 6. An enduring borderless legacy. Which brings us to our final takeaway. What does all of this actually tell us about harmony, survival, and the human spirit? Well, the overarching theme from all our sources is this. The Nath Panth didn't survive by building walls. They survived by erasing them completely. By absorbing Vedic traditions, Buddhist philosophies, tantric rituals, and even Islamic Sufi influences, they adapted. Adaptation and radical inclusion were absolutely the keys to this tradition's incredible, centuries-long longevity.
So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on. We live in a world that is so often defined by strict religious and cultural boundaries. But could the Nath Panth's ancient model, surviving and thriving purely through adaptation and syncretism, offer us a historical blueprint for true religious coexistence today? It's a fascinating question, and one that's definitely worth thinking about. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and keep learning.